First time that your Boston Red Sox are taking on the Yankees since they traded Rafael Devers.
Yep.
Good launching off point for this question. Tim Healy writing in the Boston Globe. Headline, Red Sox are a lot better off than when they last saw the rival Yankees. Simple question for you. Because I think we can all agree they're playing better baseball right now, although they've stumbled of late. But big picture, as he writes, zoom in, Red Sox have lost 7 of their last 10 games. Zoom out, they're 31-23 since they most recently saw the Yankees, the stretch that coincides with the trade of Rafael Devers. Yankees 26-29 in that time. Boston now just a game back of New York. So, playing better baseball overall since they traded Rafael Devers. My question to you, though, not is are they playing better baseball, but is the roster better? Has Craig Breslow done an effective job of making this roster, and is credit deserved to Craig Breslow for where they are right now with this roster?
No. I mean, it's a simple no. They have played better baseball since they traded Devers, but it's kind of independent of that. They've pitched better since they traded Devers. And we knew this the night they traded Devers, to be totally honest, Tim. Like, they were not going to be able to replace his production in the lineup no matter what happened. Now, some things have happened that have helped them play better baseball. Roman Anthony has come up and is an impact player. They have pitched. But is the roster better than it was on the night they traded Rafael Devers, which was the last time they played the Yankees? No, it's not. And they were pretty quick to point out, well, this gives us flexibility and we can, do different things. They did none of that at the trading deadline. So the question is will it eventually bite them? And I think you saw in this past week that they do have problems. They've got a middle-of-the-order problem. Like that game the other night, why did they lose that game? It's because the middle of the order sucks. Mm-hmm. It's not very good. Mm-hmm. Jarren Duran's not a number 3 hitter. Trevor Story, as good as he's been this year, is not a number 4 hitter. And Masataka Yoshida, who has essentially replaced Rafael Devers in this lineup, is not a number 5 hitter. So they're not a better baseball team. They've played better baseball. I think that will probably continue. I think it will get them to the playoffs, but eventually the lack of a Rafael Devers-style bat in the middle of this lineup will hurt them. My sense is it will hurt them in October, and they'll be able to get there without it.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second. What about the addition by subtraction take, right? Such an issue in the clubhouse. You get him out, and you see what's happened in San Francisco since he's joined as well, right? Yep. That team has completely gone in the tank. So what about that take? You've got younger players coming up. You want a clubhouse where you don't have a distraction like Rafael Devers. Does that play a factor, and do you factor that in?
Sure, but the question was, is your team better? Is your roster better than it was since you traded Rafael Devers, since you last met the Yankees? And the answer to that is no. The culture is better, and the culture was a problem, which is why I was actually on board with the Devers trade, because I don't want to bring up Roman Anthony in this environment. I don't want to bring up Meyer and Campbell if he ever returns. I don't want to develop young players in the presence of Rafael Devers because he was an issue. So, yeah, that
was
is a factor.
Was he, by the way?
Yeah, he was. No, he was. Come on.
You'd won 6 in a row when you traded him, right? Mm-hmm. You were playing good baseball at that point.
The team
you had an issue with Rafael Devers, no doubt, and certainly a squabble was taking place. I could also say that the Boston Red Sox could take some ownership in the way that thing unfolded with your star player in terms of the handling of that going all the way back to the offseason. Is that fair?
Sure. Yes, the Red Sox deserve blame. Craig Breslow deserves blame for the way they communicated it, the way they handled it, but Rafael Devers deserves a lot of blame too. You see,
You don't think that could be smoothed over, though? You thought it was such an issue that you could not smooth over all that stuff?
No, because I think he was that petulant. I think he was that much of a crybaby. I do think he was a problem. He was a problem in that clubhouse. So it's one of those things where both
that prevented you from winning 6 in a row prior to the trade.
The Red Sox were a bad baseball team for the first half of the season. They underachieved. They were not good enough. And Rafael Devers was one of the reasons why. Yeah, I mean, yes, he had a good May into June. How about Rafael Devers at the beginning of the season, where you lost 4 games, you lost 3 out of the first 4, and he couldn't hit because he wasn't ready to go.
He wasn't ready to go, for sure. And then he was.
From April 1st to the moment he was traded, he was a top 5 bat in terms of OPS.
Mm-hmm. Was he a problem in the clubhouse, yes or no?
I don't think that's significant. Think about what's come out since that happened. He definitely made it difficult. How about your decision to force Christian Campbell onto the opening day roster, and he's now sitting at AAA when there was still the pathway of Bregman at second and Devers at third base, where you could have had Yoshida maybe start the year at DH, where now after 4 months and you told him to go to Siberia so you didn't have to hear from him or do anything with him, he hasn't looked like himself. He's been closer to league average in August, but still it looks like he's having trouble getting back to where he was. Because guess what? He's played 25 games this year after sitting out the first 4 months. So like I think it's a balancing of all that, but a lot of that stuff was so self-inflicted. And yes, Devers was selfish after the Costas injury. You have to acknowledge that. But still, to me, the fact that we haven't got anything significant from an organization that loves to dump on players the minute they leave here. What's the worst thing we've heard about Rafael Devers? It was that he was mad at Christian Campbell. Guess what happened to that report? It got thrown in the trash and was proven false.
I'm not trying to argue, by the way, that he wasn't frustrating and that there was some blame there to put on Rafael Devers in terms of the way that thing was handled and refusing to play first base and not taking accountability when all that stuff cropped up. For sure. I also think the Red Sox deserve just as much, if not more, blame for the way that whole thing unfolded. I also look at the Red Sox and the way they're playing right now, and post-trade, they're second in all of baseball in ERA. So unless he was stuffing the starting pitchers in lockers on a nightly basis before their starts, I don't think that those two things correlate in terms of getting him out of the clubhouse and suddenly you playing better baseball.
Oh, I don't think there's any correlation between that. I mean, the reason they have played better baseball is they have pitched better, plain and simple. But I would say this, though. Does it allow Roman Anthony to grow into his role if Rafael Devers is gone? Yes. Now, again.
Okay, so I agree, by the way. Obviously, Roman Anthony coming into this lineup has made a difference. I would also look at the Red Sox and say if Roman Anthony is your second or potentially even best bat in the lineup right now, you figure out a way to get that guy in the lineup prior to trading your best bat, right? There's probably room for both of those bats in your lineup.
You want to know one of the reasons they dragged their feet on bringing Roman Anthony up here? When they needed a DH, but Devers would not move? It's because Devers wouldn't move to first base. So
because he was DHing, you couldn't find room for what would potentially be your second or third best bat in the lineup?
Yep. Which you did to yourself by the way you handled it over the offseason.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that's the reason why.
Also, the forcing of the Devers trade, right? When you did it, just because you wanted the money off the books and what you got in return, you got in Jordan Hicks, who might be the biggest arsonist we've seen in some time with a 6.60 ERA. How about you having Kyle Harrison down at AAA, who is he's been mediocre overall.
He's been a workhorse for the Blue Sox. He's been great addition to the 508.
Yeah. But like a guy that when you have Walker Buehler out there crapping his pants regularly and giving you nothing, has not even done enough to force him off the roster or force your hand. Like, that's a tough spot. Even, James Tibbs, you flipped in a deal for Dustin May, good in 2 out of 3 starts, but everyone was like, you overpaid for what you needed to do in that deal.
Listen, it's one of those things where both these things are true. Are the Red Sox better since they last played the Yankees when Devers is in their lineup on the roster? Undeniably.
Yes.
They are worse. You saw it again this week. They will miss Rafael Devers. They missed him on Tuesday night. They will miss him eventually. But let's also not act like he wasn't a petulant crybaby and was a problem in that clubhouse. All right? Now, the issue is you didn't make this move in the offseason. You gave the money to the wrong guy in the first place, and you ended up in a spot where you traded him in the middle of the year for nothing when you were not going to be able to replace him. You will not be able to replace Rafael Devers' production until the offseason because bats like that don't move in the regular season. Well, you move them. Nobody else.
Nobody else does.
Yeah,
and that's an issue.
That's a problem. It's an issue. It's probably not going to bite them until they get to October. I think they have enough to get to October. But don't get me wrong, it's an issue.